And then let's quickly give ourselves a summary of what the last year under lockdown has been like, and it's been kind of awful. But now the coronavirus is essentially a problem that the Conservative Party have solved. We're down to like double-digit deaths per day within 28 days of a coronavirus test. It seems that the Conservative Party, as we said yesterday, can take the win on this, but they refuse to do so for some reason. And they've decided to extend their COVID powers that were only for 1 year for another 6 months. This has gone through the House of Commons with a massive margin because the Labour Party have voted for this as well, obviously thinking, well, at some point the Conservatives will be out of government and we'll have these unbelievable powers that we'll have to be able to take advantage of. Right? And so this passed with a 484 to 76 margin. That 76 being a handful of Conservatives that are just like, wait, are we meant to be a totalitarian state that allows the government to take control of every aspect of people's lives and forcibly vaccinate them with stuff? Maybe not, because we're Conservatives. Like, I'm sorry I'm overusing that meme, but seriously, I'm just so sick of the Conservatives.
It's just so true.
It's so true.
Good on the 76 people doing this, but
yeah.
God.
Bravo. The 76 people who are like, you know what, I don't think indefinite tyranny is good. I think maybe we need to vote against that. Like, but anyway, right, so... I mean, like, here's Mark Harper, a leading lockdown skeptic, saying he had not heard a single good answer as to why the British government needed to extend the draconian powers for another 6 months. That's because there isn't one. Even the Liberal Democrats oppose this extension, right? And that explains why it's, 76 rather than 75. That was a good joke.
I didn't get the reference.
No, the Lib Dems are a tiny marginal force.
Oh.
Because, no, don't worry. But anyway, Ed Davies said it gave ministers a blank check to use draconian powers they don't need. Yeah, that's right. They don't need these draconian powers. They've got a blank check for it. The Labour Party are in favour of it. Most of the Conservative Party are in favour of it. Why is it that Jeremy Corbyn has come out against this? Jeremy Corbyn said, our liberties are at stake. Comrade Corbyn! Like, of all things... Like, Jeremy Corbyn's on the right side of an issue about liberty.
Chairman Mao's like, I'm not sure you should do this, Britain.
Exactly. Like, maybe. Anyway, so the question that's being debated now is that should you require a vaccine passport to go into a pub? That's where we are.
Deine Papier.
Yeah. Papers, please. Also, you don't have a picture of Mohammed, do you? Like, I just... You've won. You beat the virus. Like on the previous thing, 28 million people have been vaccinated now. That's every elderly person. We're going into like the 50s and 40s. Like, what now? Everyone's safe. You've done it. The problem's solved. But anyway, MPs will apparently vote later on these new laws, and because it's continuing going through the process. Well, this was from yesterday even. They did approve it. They essentially just continue as is. The review of the vaccine certification may coincide. Blah blah. Where was I looking for? Right. So it turns out that this review that they're doing. That is going to be a review into the vaccine certification, could report in May to coincide with the wider reopening of hospitality in England, which would be nice one day in the future. The review is looking into whether people should have to prove whether they have been vaccinated as lockdown measures ease. Why?
So they're exploring whether or not to make this mandatory.
Yeah.
So my understanding at the moment, they want to make this a voluntary scheme for pubs.
Well,
so that's them testing the waters to see what response is.
Yeah, I mean, thankfully the response has been fairly good. I mean, like if they're even going to take away going to the pub, then Jesus. But the review is going into how this can be done, and basically they're thinking that you could have a vaccine passport that is on your phone as an app that you could display as you go into a pub or whatever. And when asked about pub goers being asked to provide the vaccine certificate, Boris Johnson was like, "Well, it may be up to the individual pubs." Why? Why have anything? Like, if the vaccine works, then the problem goes away, and then we don't need it. There's no one in risk. What's the problem? But the view from Boris, very, very tepid. And it's weird that he's kind of opening up a gap here with which to go down this, because he says that we have had something similar to this in the past when it comes to vaccines for other things, much more dangerous diseases, in certain other areas of life. So it's like, right, okay, why would you want to leverage that into this not very dangerous disease that you have already defeated? But anyway, the responses were at least relatively good, because In fact, no, we're going to get back to Boris very quickly, because there was one thing that he said that I find really interesting, and this perception that he has of the outside world. I mean, it's with the hepatitis B jabs. He was like, look, it's not alien to us that doctors already have to have these jabs and stuff like this. It's like, yeah, okay, great. So you've got one circumstance in which vaccines are mandatory because doctors need hepatitis B jabs so they don't infect patients or something. Does that mean that we need to have vaccine passports going into a pub? No, obviously, right? But Boris's view is this, right? He's like, I find myself in this long national conversation thinking very deeply about it. The public want me as Prime Minister to take all the action I can to protect them. Do they?
What?
Do they?
We don't see you as God. Like, we're not Labour Party voters.
Who did you ask? It wasn't the Conservative base, was it?
No. I mean, if you ask the Labour Party's, supporters and activists, yeah, they see their leader as God who needs to protect them.
Yeah.
But if you ask any freedom-loving person, of course not.
No. And it's wild how he thinks he's leading the Labour Party. So he seems to think that he has to turn himself into a tyrant, and this is probably how I'm going to refer to him from now on, the tyrant Boris, who thinks that he needs to enact COVID Sharia across the country because that's what the people demand, comrade. So the people do not demand COVID Sharia at all, which is why you keep going on about people breaking lockdown. But anyway, the responses were at least fairly heartening. Jonathan Neame, the chief executive of the Shepherd Neame pub chain, said that his company would not insist on vaccines. Weatherspoon said the same, did they not?
Yeah, Tim Martin said that they will not do it if they're allowed to say no.
Right.
If they are forced to, then they have to.
Yeah. I mean, it's pretty bad business practice, really, because if you've got every pub chain saying, yeah, we're going to turn away people without their vaccine passports, the single pub that says, no, we're going to let anyone in regardless, is going to get loads and loads of business and is going to crush the opposition.
Yeah, and anyone who has a vaccine is over the age of, 50, 40? So anyone under that age can't go to a pub.
Yeah.
And also, what happens if you want to bring your kids who don't need one?
Yeah, exactly. Or if you're a pregnant woman who's going to drink a non-alcoholic drink or have a meal or something like that, and your doctor has advised you not to have one.
It's a really well thought out piece of legislation.
Really well thought out. But anyway, Peter Marks, a nightclub owner from the Delta Group, said the vaccine certificate could work for the sector, but probably be accepted by customers already used to carrying IDs into venues. However, he was concerned about introducing such a measure as a delay of reopening a business. Well, I mean, I guess.
I should also mention, when Weatherspoons announced that they will not be instituting vaccine passports in their pubs, their stock went up.
Oh, good to know, yeah. But yeah, so Steve Baker, the touted libertarian backbench conservative MP that we hear so much about, but it's all just empty air as far as I'm concerned. Libertarian principles, okay, but we're currently living in a tyrannical state where we can't, we don't have free speech. Yeah, I guess he's only one man, but like, do something. I don't know. I don't even know what he's supposed to do, but just do something. Don't just sit there going, yeah, I don't approve of this. I don't approve of this. I don't approve of this. Yeah, well, it's all happening, isn't it, Steve? Anyway, he said, first we'll need them to watch the football, and today it will be the papers for the pub. Where does this end? We must not fall into this ghastly trap. What do you mean we must not fall? We're there. Like, we're currently, everything's closed. Like, this would be an improvement in our liberty if we were given vaccine passports to go to the pub. That's how sad the state is in Britain at the moment. At the moment, no pub, but it could be that if you get the right papers, you could go to the pub. That would be an improvement.
Deine Papier, bitte.
It really is. It's Soviet Britain. The Soviet Caliphate of Britain. Oh, God, I hate it so much. Like,
Literally Islamo-leftist island.
Yes. Literally Islamo-leftist island. And there's based Macron across the continent going, down with Islam, down with leftism. It's like, how did that happen? Boris, you were the guy BTFOing the anarcho-syndicalist fringe and the letterboxes.
I love people in the chat are like, well, we can vote for something else. I honestly, I feel like we might all just have to put in the other category next time and be like Macron.
Macron elected Prime Minister of Britain. How did this happen? Yeah, good question. But that's the point. We can vote for something else. Well, what? What are we going to vote for? And how would we get the public to get that on board? Because they're just going to be like, well, it's either blue or red, because I'm someone who doesn't pay attention to politics and I'm happy being oppressed. I hate it. And the main thrust against this from the Conservatives is, well, it might be discriminatory. Oh, really? That's the objection, is it? Discrimination.
It might violate the Equality Act. God,
yes.
We need to abolish that act. We don't care about
it. Exactly. It's against human rights. It's against your personal liberties. It's against freedom. You know, the concept that the English invented in England that no longer exists, that would have been the thing that I would have appealed to, not the communist, it makes us unequal. Like, that's the thrust of their objection, and it's disgraceful. It might prevent pregnant women from taking part in society. Our individual liberties have been abolished? Like, what the hell are you talking about? Like, anyway, so... yeah, Nick Ferrari was on the radio at least spitting some facts over this. True facts, in fact. He said, I told you before there'll be no end to this. If I told you a little over 12 months ago that in 12 months' time it will be floated to you that you need a special passport to be allowed to go into the pub, you would have laughed at me. Well, good point. They probably would. And now here we are, because there is no end to it. It's a the slippery slope is not a fallacy, it's a prophecy. It goes and goes and goes until we're now discussing...
All right, I'm predicting it now. Tinder passports.
Probably.
Yeah.
I'm not getting that goddamn vaccine. Boris kind of wobbled on this, thankfully. I guess that's something. I mean, like, because literally everyone was like, Boris, that's a terrible idea. Even Jeremy Corbyn is like, is this a good idea? Even Jeremy Corbyn's against you, Boris.
The Antarctica syndicalist front is like, hang on a bit.
Exactly. Don't be liberty. But this is the thing, Boris, why do you think the entire country is expecting you to save everyone from death? No one thinks that's your job.
Bunker.
It's bizarre. But anyway, so Boris, the compromise that Boris came out with is, I can solve this conundrum, I can square this circle. How about we don't have any vaccine passports until all people in Britain have been offered the jab? What? So if you've been offered the jab and you don't have a passport because you didn't take it, you can't go to the pub. Thanks, Boris. I hate it. Thank you. Thank you for this absolutely awful compromise solution. It's like you shouldn't be doing this. This is wrong. This is bad. This is immoral. It makes you a tyrant, right? So he said he was trying to take the heat out of the growing backlash and said, I do think it's going to be a role for certification. There is going to be a role for certification. There are lots of difficult issues because there are some people who, for medical reasons, can't get a vaccination. Pregnant women can't get it, and you've got to be careful about how you do this. You might only be able to implement a thoroughgoing vaccine passport scheme, even if you wanted such a thing, in the context of when absolutely everybody's been offered a vaccine. Well, then rule it out, Boris. Rule it out. We don't do it if it's unworkable. There's if we can't appeal to the practical, the moral argument of the state of historic English liberties, can we at least argue from the practical position of you can't do it? You know, but no. Instead, we're going to be like, well, we're just going to have to wait until everyone's been offered it, and then we'll do it. So what happens to the pubs until then? Until everyone has been given the vaccine in England? Like, do you not have the pubs open? It's just sorry, not my problem.
Well, they're not right now.
They're not right now, so what? Things won't change. Obviously, the business and backbenchers have opposed this, and even a scientist has come out against this. Even the scientists. Sir Jeremy Farrar, a top scientist apparently, has said it crosses the line of individual freedoms and public health. Right, there we go. We've got the scientists arguing from ethics. Now it's individual freedoms coming out of the mouths of the scientists going, hang on a second, screw the science. Like, we're talking about the basic moral content of our public life here. It's like, yeah, that's right, we are. And that's the discussion we should have had right at the very beginning. You know, this should never have got to this position. But anyway, like, and aside from the fact that it just factually will do nothing, it doesn't change a damn thing. Like, again, they've vaccinated all of the vulnerable people. So yeah, the senior Tory Sir Robert Sims, MP for Poole, said it's bonkers, good. And in reality, it just won't happen because pubs and businesses will open up to everyone. Well, I hope so. And Peter Bone, another Tory MP, says a vaccine passport is about making people show papers and certificates. It goes against all of our freedoms. Why on earth would we show papers to have a pint when we're all being vaccinated? So it seems that he's almost kind of agreeing with Boris there. It's like, well, once everyone's had it, we won't need it. It's like, we don't need it now, and the pubs could be open now. But anyway, so that's the disgraceful state of Britain. Disgraceful state of America as well. God, sorry we didn't have a white pill podcast for the weekend. Now you have to go and go, God damn, everything sucks.
Makes the white pills podcast even better.
Oh, I guess it does.
They're so rare.
I guess it does, but we're just... everything's just so bad, and there's no constructive discussion on any of the things that we're actually talking about. You know, it's like, look, You were trapped within a paradigm where everything conspires to keep you under the thumb, and the only people who can break through it are people like Macron, who are like, no, the paradigm is bad and I'm scrapping it. Here's some French liberty for you. And we're like, oh God, I'm gonna have to move to France. If you enjoyed this segment from the podcast of the Lotus Eaters, you can watch the full broadcast live every weekday at 1 p.m. UK time on lotuseaters.com.